So I've been saying for a while that the Sapphics are winning, but oh my gosh, the next couple of months of music, the Sapphics are winning, especially those of us who like Sapphic music made by Sapphic people. There's so many great albums, great songs, great release dates coming up that I'm very excited about. And like, it's not like we haven't already had a number of good things this year, right? Here, Lucy Dacus, Julian Baker and Torres, Maren Morris's new album, Selena Gomez's new album. I'm sure there's others that I'm forgetting, put them down below, but we've already been very much blessed this year. And we're getting another blessing either today, tomorrow, depending on when I'm able to get this out. May 21st is Renee Rapp's newest song. It's the one that she's been teasing about being a really bad girl and a really good kisser. I know a lot of us have been excited about that. She has also been teasing an album. I don't think we've gotten the release date for that album yet, but we do have the next song, and based on the little tidbits of it that we've heard, I'm already excited. Now let's talk about people with known album release dates. First off, Miley's new album, Something Beautiful, is coming out May 30th. I really loved Miley's last album. I especially loved Flowers. I know that that was the big like radio hit, but that one just, it got stuck in my brain and I could not stop listening to it. I really like how she is reprocessing her life, thinking about all the things that have happened to her, thinking about whether or not it was actually her fault, thinking of whether or not her relationships or her position in the industry, all these things have been really interesting. And she's talked about this new album having themes about like recovering, especially from PTSD level trauma and things of that nature. And as somebody that shares that trauma, and also as somebody who has been really heavily tracking the number of pop stars who have been handling that theme, like there's been so much about trauma and recovering from trauma and realizing that things that happened to you weren't your fault and realizing that your inner child is damaging and trying to heal that inner child. We discussed that with Selena Gomez's album. We discussed that with TTBD. We've discussed that with a number of albums recently, and it's so exciting to see more and more artists discussing this concept of like, hey, what happened to us, especially those of us who grew up in the industry, who were children when we first started making music. We were traumatized. The things that we were put through were not great. And we also had to endure that trauma with a grin on, and, you know, while everybody is proclaiming us the lucky ones and saying that we don't have anything to complain about. That was something that was very prevalent with Taylor when she was growing up in the industry, with Britney, but also with Miley as well. This idea that, like, how could you possibly have anything to be sad about? You're famous. You're a Nepo baby at that. Like, your life is perfectly easy, but we don't really discuss the ways that growing up in fame is inherently a traumatic experience. And there are a lot of things that could be done to alleviate that trauma, to make that trauma less, but we won't do any of it because we don't believe in protecting young people, especially young women. Next up is Cynthia Erivo's new album, I Forgive You, which is coming out June 6th. Now, I admit I have not been watching this one as much as the other ones. I know that Cynthia has been talking about how this is like a chapter 2 of her first album, and one of these days I need to go through, and actually one of these days in the next couple of weeks, I really want to go through and listen to chapter 1 again to kind of know where we're at, what the state of mind that we're supposed to be in going into this new album is going to be. But what I will say is the graphics that we have seen for this new album, the like album cover and everything of that nature, the kind of like angel, but also this kind of like blackbird crow kind of imagery. Ah, it's so good. I love any type of bird imagery. I love any type of wing imagery. And I really love the way that she was photographed for the front. I'm very excited about this album. I love her voice. I loved her as Alphaba. I'm so excited about this album, and we've only got like 3 weeks. Also releasing June 6th is an album by an artist that I admit I am a lot less familiar with, and that is MARINA. Her album is called Princess of Power. A lot of people have also been calling it pop. That also comes out June 6th. The first songs that I've heard from this, like I said, I admit I do not know a lot about MARINA. I have not experienced much of her music. There are a couple of her songs that are in my playlist, but the song that she has released for this album that I can't say the name as, I'm going to call it Count Isimo. That one is really good, has me very excited, and I love reclaiming those words, especially the words that we tend to view as like most bad. And it has always frustrated me that like the worst curse word is the one that is associated with women, but also like a part of women's bodies. I've never loved that, and I love the idea of reclaiming that word, of lessening its impact, of making it something that is viewed as less dirty and bad and wrong and all of that jazz. And I love just the queer community as a whole trying to reclaim that word, especially recently. So I'm very eager to see what is on the rest of MARINA's album. Next up, another album by somebody who I'm not as familiar with is Nxdia. They are, what is their new album called? It's not being listed as an album per se, it's being listed as a 10-track debut mixtape exploring identity and self-discovery on June 13th. And I'm really excited about all of these artists that we see that are talking about like gender and gender identity and not being in the binary or having like a more gender expansive view of yourself or how you navigate through the world. And I love that we're getting more music in this topic, not just Nxdia's album, but also Lorde's as well, which we're going to discuss in a couple of minutes. But I was introduced to Nxdia back in February when they released their song Boy Clothes. It had a lot of themes of gender dysphoria, which as a non-binary person myself is something that I can heavily relate to. And then 2 weeks ago they released the song More, which is a queer love anthem. I can't wait to see what the rest of this album is. At this point, those are the only 2 songs that I've experienced by Nxdia. They've been on my list to experience more for a while. There's just been so much great music by so many different artists this year, so I have not had as much of a chance to check them out as I would like to, but I will get a better chance soon in a couple weeks. And if there are albums that I'm discussing here that are things that you would like to maybe see me do a video about in specific, there are some that I know I'm going to do a video about. I know I'm going to do a video in the lead up to Lorde's, and probably also when her album comes out as well. But if you want to see me talk about any of these other albums in more detail, please let me know. Next up, one that I'm very excited about is HAIM's new album called I Quit that comes out June 20th. A lot of people have been questioning, like, what all are we quitting? Are we just quitting specific relationships? Does this relate to their relationships with the fans, their relationship with the industry, how they're going to do their career different? A lot of people have been getting the vibe that there has just been more than just like, I'm quitting this relationship behind the I Quit of their album. A lot of people are wondering, hey, is part of the thing that you're quitting cis heteronormativity? Because there's a lot of women that get into this age that a lot of the sisters are in right now where they're like, hey, this is not benefiting me. I quit. I'm not going to do this anymore. So I'm kind of excited to see if there are themes of that. So I have to admit, if you really pin me down and ask me which one I was most excited about, it's going to be Lorde's new album. I was a huge fan of Lorde when she came out, even though she was 17 and I was in my 30s, I want to say, when her first album released. But I've always loved her songwriting, especially with melodrama. I just really loved her music, so I'm very excited to see, especially because based on the interviews that we've seen about Virgin so far, it really seems like Lorde is going to be discussing not only gender identity and how her gender identity has expanded, but also like reclaiming the word virgin, because the word or variants of it have existed for, I want to say, thousands of years, and it wasn't until fairly recently that it had the very specific definition that we commonly associate with it today. I've been very excited about all of the imagery, all of the photos, everything that we've gotten in the lead up to this album because of like her talking about gender expansiveness and her talking about how, like, you know, most days I feel like a girl, but then there's also days where I feel like a boy. And a lot of that stuff, a lot of those topics are things that are interesting to me. Then finally, the last person that we have like a set in stone album release date that is this summer that I'm aware of is Kesha. I'm sure there's ones that I'm missing as well. Please let me know down below. She has an album that's coming out July 4th. I admit I have not heard as much about this album. Based on what I've heard, it sounds like it's going to be in part about like reclaiming her career, but also like a bisexual reclamation, things of that nature. I've always loved her. I'm very excited to see what this album is. There is a little bit of an honorable mention because we don't have a set date for everything, and I'm not even sure if they're working on like just a song or if they're working on an album or what exactly it is. But Girl in Red has been teasing this song Hemingway that was been stuck in my brain for days, and it's kind of being posited as like the other side of the lesbian coin of what Renee, you know, because Renee Rapp is like happy, sexy lesbian music, and Girl in Red is completing the opposite side of the dichotomy, the like mentally ill, the substance abuse part of being a lesbian. And one thing that's going to be particularly interesting is the fact that she has hinted that this is going to be in part about substance abuse and like the fact that she turned to substances in order to tolerate being on tour. And I think that that's something that like we don't really discuss enough, how like musicians have to tour because that's basically the only way they make money. Like the large majority of musicians do not make money from like their albums and things of that nature. Like their label makes a ton of money from that, but they don't make money unless they're touring that album and getting butts in seat and selling merch and things of that nature. And it puts a lot of pressure on people who may not be inclined to do that kind of stuff. I'm sorry, there's a plane. There's been like 27 planes coming over, but we're just gonna ride with this one because it's already taken me like way longer to film this than it really should have. Say, goddamn baby, you drink like Hemingway, but your writing's no good and your songs all sound the same. But yeah, that's what I know about for the next upcoming couple of months. I'm sure there's people that I've forgotten. One of the problems that I've had with this is like if you Google like release date so-and-so's album, that stupid Google AI thing just makes things up. And if you turn that off, a lot of times what Google tells you is not like there's no release date at this point in time. They'll just take you to random fan videos that are making stuff up. Like I've seen a couple of different sources that have listed like 2 or 3 different album names for Renee Rapp for allegedly June 27th, but she is not seemingly, insofar as I can tell, announced that to anyone. I think that's just fans' speculation, fans thinking, fans hoping. Maybe those fans have access to some information that I don't, but I could not find anything that seemed like an official album release date. So please let me know if and when that happens as well. But I'm tired of being out here because every 2 seconds a plane flies by and it's driving me crazy. So my name is AerinMoriarty. I make videos about Sapphic life, pop music especially, things of that nature. So if anything of that is interesting to you, please give me a like, comment, subscription. It does help me out very much because I am still a small channel with not many subscribers. So it really does help me out a ton. Bye-bye!